Hello, everybody. Welcome to Entre Nos. Today, I'm very happy. Today, I have the honor and joy of speaking with someone truly inspiring, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. Dr. Tal is a pioneer in the field of happiness and well being, known for his legendary positive psychology course at Harvard, which drew thousands of students eager to learn how to lead fuller and more meaningful lives. He is also the co founder of the Happiness Study Academy, an institution that is transforming how we understand and practice happiness in our lives and communities. But beyond this, his remarkable career as a professor, philosopher, author, and psychologist, today I want to invite you to get to know the more personal side of Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. I want to explore his story, his passions, his daily moments, and what inspired him beyond his professional achievements. Dr. Tal, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here in the Entre Nos. Welcome and thank you so much for accepting this invitation.
Thank you, Laura. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Well, my first question, Tal, what memories from your childhood do you feel have influenced your vision of happiness?
So I don't know, but the memory that came to mind was not a happy memory. It was when I think I was 12 years old, and I come from a religious Orthodox family. So every Saturday we used to go to the synagogue. Mm-hmm. And we went to the synagogue, and there is a specific part of the prayer on Saturday where very often one of the kids from the congregation would get on stage and sing. And it's a prayer, but the kid would sing, and then the audience responds together with a line, and then the kid sings another line, and the audience responds, and it goes back and forth, between 10 and 20 times. And I would often sing that prayer, and the audience would respond, and so on. And that particular Saturday, I went on stage as usual, and there were, I don't know, maybe 50 people in the synagogue, so it wasn't a large community, it was a very small one. And I started singing, and there was someone in the audience who was very loud, but sang off key, completely off key. And so I sang the first line, and the audience responded, and that person really put me off. But then I responded again, and after about 3-4 back and forth, I completely lost the tune, because I was so, taken off key by that person. And I'm not a very musical person, but I usually can hold a tune. And I completely lost the tune and sang off key, and I knew it. And I was so embarrassed in the middle of the song. And again, I was on the stage. I ran away.
Wow.
And that was a very traumatic experience. I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed by being off tune, but even more embarrassed by the fact that I ran away. And that had a very deep impact on me, because from that day on, I developed very severe stage fright, where I wouldn't go on stage. I wouldn't speak in a public forum. I would get very nervous to the point of turning red and sweating whenever I was in a situation where I had to address an audience. And it was only in my 20s, so more than 10 years later, that I actually realized that my calling was to be a teacher. And it was after I encountered the work of Marva Collins, whom I talk about a lot in my lectures. But I think a lot about that experience, and again I go back to an idea that I think is central for everything important that we do in our life. And that there must be at some point some struggle or some gridlock or some hardship or some challenge, that, something that severely takes us out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was one of the experiences. It was not specifically what got me into happiness. What got me into happiness was my unhappiness, but it was a formative experience. And I think that without it, I wouldn't have become the committed and maybe conscientious teacher that I later became.
Amazing. It's amazing how those things just start shaping us, right? Because when you say that that was what maybe lead you to be teacher later on, well, something like that happens to me too, because I didn't like to teach, but because I traveled around the world with my husband because of his profession, and everywhere I went, the only job that I got was to teach. And I was like, why? Why if I hate this? And at the end, I paused and I said, well, this is what I want to do. After many, many years of like being, why? I can do anything else and I have to teach. But yeah.
Laura, it's sometimes I think we need to listen to what
Yeah.
the world is telling us. And
Yes.
sometimes we get the message directly. This is the job you're getting.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we get it indirectly through maybe reality telling us this matters to you so much. Maybe there's something there.
Mhm. Yes, exactly. And apart from that experience, Tal, is there any other experience in your life that has been pivotal in shaping your philosophy of happiness?
Look, there are many experiences, but I want to maybe focus on what my parents have done for me, because I have. I'm looking at their picture right now. They're here,
Yeah.
always looking at me and looking over me. I was really blessed. I believe in hard work and effort, and I'm a hard worker, but I also feel very lucky to have the parents that I have, because my parents brought many were a role model for me in many levels, but I want to focus on two things in particular. First, my mom. So my mom is probably the kindest person I've ever met, and I know the kindest person many people report to have met. She was a school teacher, and many of her students she taught in some difficult neighborhoods, at-risk population, and many of the kids there would call her mom, because she was such a powerful and influential figure in their lives. And this was her defining characteristic, and she was and still is a very strong woman and a very kind woman. My dad is also very kind. However, the characteristic that I most got from him was love of learning. So, I could read and write when I was 4 years old. Why? Because my dad taught me. And, when I was 3 years old, I mean, I don't remember this, but, so I'm told I knew the names of all the cars on the road because my dad taught me. And he told me how to weld, and he's an electronics engineer, and he taught me about history, and he is very curious, and he's curious like a child, who always wants to learn more. And today he's in his 80s, and still every day learning and reading, and to have such a role model
Yeah.
is a real gift.
Yes.
So these, our parents shape us. And by the way, also, if there are characteristics, if we look back and there are characteristics that we don't like about our parents, or we want to be different from our parents, that's also teaching us. And that's
Oh, yeah.
also important.
Yeah, I remember my father. My father loved to read, and he was like an encyclopedia, and he loves to read, and he will give me a book each week, for me to read. And I
Mm,
hated in the beginning. And I will read just the, between lines, and because he will discuss the book with me, right, after a week.
mm.
And I will try to fool him, and he will say, okay, you're trying to be smart. Okay, now you have to read two more, two books next time. And I hate it, but now I love that because I love learning and I love to read. And it's like you say, what
And,
sometimes what we hate, it's what we end up loving
yeah.
and
And the other thing that your story makes me think about is that, and that's relevant for us as parents or as teachers. So my dad loves classical music. And almost every day we'd have classical music in the background, or we would just sit and listen. And I never liked classical music. I liked 80s music.
exactly.
A child of the 80s. But the classical music was there. And today, there's rarely a day that goes by when I don't really listen to classical music. It's one of the most important parts of my life. So what we as parents or teachers do is we plant seeds. Sometimes they germinate and flourish, and sometimes they don't. But sometimes they take time to germinate and flourish, and we just need patience.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Your course on positive psychology at Harvard became one of the most popular. What do you think resonates so deeply with the students?
You know, as I think you and many of our fellow journeyers know, my class started as a very small class with 8 students, and two of them dropped out, leaving me with 6. That was the first year. And suddenly, the third year, it became the largest course at the university. And the reason for that is one. There was, at Harvard, as I think in just about every university, students have the opportunity to evaluate their classes. And, my class was given a high mark, but there are many classes that get, a high mark. But there is a part at the end of the evaluation, which is not 1 to 5, but rather is an open question. And the question was, do you have anything else to add? And large number of students wrote, this class changed my life. Or something to the effect of, I applied the material and became happier. And this was reported on in the student evaluation guide, and this is what attracted the students to the class. And as I tell our fellow journeyers, and as I say, whether I'm teaching one lecture or a whole master's degree, I always emphasize the fact that I would not be teaching if this was just a theoretical exploration. I teach for one reason and one reason alone, because I truly believe that this material can make a difference in people's lives.
Mhm.
And that is what many students, and I think most of us, if not all of us, are looking for. Whether it's to improve our relationships, whether it's to become happier, whether it's to become healthier, more engaged with life, we're looking for actual, concrete, real, meaningful change. And that's what the field of positive psychology or happiness studies is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. It changed my life, and also it changed a lot of the lives of the ones that I already interview. They say it's amazing. My life was one thing in the beginning of the happiness study, and then something completely different after. It is amazing, and for that we thank you very much, very very much.
Thank you. I'm on this journey just like everyone else is.
Yeah. Tal, as the co-founder of the Happiness Study Academy, what inspired you most about the work you do there?
Laura, it's an easy question. What inspires me most is when I hear of a student, of a fellow journeyer introducing change in their lives, improving their lives as a result of something that they learned, whether it's in one of our live webinars or from the courses or from the ABC webinar or from our retreats. So when I hear that something had a positive impact on a life or on lives, that is what inspires me. That is what gives me energy, and this is what provides my life with meaning.
How do you find time to disconnect and take care of your own happiness?
Um, you know, I do it because I have no choice.
Mm.
For example, we just came back from a retreat in Mexico City, and then the
Yes.
Hope Circuit following the retreat. And I think most people there, myself for sure, had an incredible, amazing time. And we were dancing, and we were talking, and we were laughing, and we were thinking, we were crying, and and I had to give you know numerous lectures and presentations. And when I did it, I must say it was easy. Easy because I was completely energized, and I was adrenaline, and I was feeling on a high. And then I came home, and it took me about, I don't know, 2, 3 hours to simply collapse.
Mhm.
I mean, zero energy. I mean, I say home, I went back to my hotel. I
Yeah.
completely collapsed. In fact, and I know Arlene knows it, but I don't know if others know it. I was supposed to take a flight early in the morning. So I think a flight to New York, I think left at 8 a.m. Or something from Mexico City to Newark. And I postponed the flight. I called the airline the day before, and I took a later flight. Because, yeah, I could have done it if I had to, but I just felt, no, I want to sleep in as long as I need. I want to wake up and read and then go to the gym and
Mhm.
then have a leisurely breakfast and just be by myself. I needed that recovery time. So, like they say, work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
For me, it's, work and play hard and then rest hard, or rather
Mm.
rest soft.
Yeah. Well, you teach us, you always taught us about pause, rest, how
Recovery.
important
Exactly.
recovery, how important it is in our lives. And that's one thing that I'm learning to do. Just pause and to not feel guilty because you're doing that. Because
Exactly.
that's the problem, that we feel guilty when we're pausing, when we are recovering, when we are like doing anything, because we had a hard day and we come home and we just sit and we feel guilty. It's like, why am I sitting here? I should be doing something. But now,
Yeah.
recovery.
Yeah,
It's
and Laura, that's also how we raise our children often is, what do you mean you're sitting here? You have nothing to do. You don't have any homework? Well, maybe we should put you in another class. Now you should study violin. Piano is not enough because we have an issue with doing nothing. But what we don't realize is that when we ostensibly do nothing, a lot is happening. A, recovery is happening. B, our mind is actually working. We are coming up with ideas. When we go to bed, sleep plays a very important role, not just in our happiness, also in our ability to think, in the healing process. So the time off is extremely important. And again, that's why I talk so much about the importance of recovery. That's why I talk so much about the importance of slowness. The work by Carl Honore.
it,
I'm thinking back again to the Hope Circuit, and I participated on a panel, and the person running the panel asked us a question. He said 3 words to define the modern world, and I thought about it, and I came up with 3 words that define the modern world: fast, faster, and fastest.
yeah.
These are the 3 words. And we need an antidote. We need to counter them with slow, slower, and slowest.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, we should. Well, you were telling us about the children, right? That we teach the children. What are you doing? You're not doing anything. You should be doing something. I was one of that person. My daughter had piano, violin, guitar, painting, soccer, everything, until one day one of my good friend came home to visit me. We were living in the US. And I said, can you go with me? Because I have to run, some errands, and I have to take Laura, the little Laura, places. And when we finished the day, he said, Laura, I am worn out from you.
Ah,
He said, please stop. I'm so tired of just being with you, And at that moment I was like, no, but this is my day. That's my life. I have to do this. And now I
wow.
understood what he was saying to me,
Wow.
Paul, calm down. And you tell us. And now I'm teaching my daughter. She doesn't live with me anymore, but I'm trying to teach her, pause, Laura, little Laura, pause, because she's at the gym, she's working, she's climbing. I'm like, rest, take time for you,
Yeah.
just anything. It's very
Yeah.
important.
Very important.
Yeah. How important are human relationships in your approach to happiness and well-being?
Um, I cannot overemphasize how important they are. And even though it sounds like a cliche to say, oh, relationships matter, the most important thing in life are your friends and family. Even though most people know it, most people don't live by this understanding, especially in today's modern world. Because, in the past, it was almost by default that we spent a lot of time with others, so we would go out and we would hunt together, or we would collect food together. And then in the evening, we would come home and sit together around the fireplace. Today, so many of us are spending hours and hours a day by ourselves, which is why loneliness has become arguably the number one pandemic that we are encountering with very high, and we're paying a very high price for it. Also, the fact that many people are replacing real face-to-face, same room interactions with with virtual interactions. We're paying a very high price for it. The fact that children are on screens for so many hours a day rather than being outside and playing football or hide and seek or running around together, we as a society are paying a very high price for it. So I cannot overemphasize it, and I must say it saddens me a great deal and even scares me that our society is going in that direction, losing the real and substituting it with the virtual.
Exactly. Yeah. And what daily practices do you consider essential for staying balanced and happy?
So first of all, my daily practices have changed and will continue to change, because just as I study research, I'm also constantly engaged in me search. So I like to experiment and change things and see what effect things have on me. But right now, and this doesn't change or hasn't changed for many years, but I do start the day with meditation.
Mm.
And right now it's brief meditation. It takes me about 12 minutes to meditate. I usually don't set an alarm because I wake up very early naturally. I start the day by reading. And then at around 7:45, I sit down in front of this computer and start to write. And whether it's a book or whether it's lesson plans or poetry or whatever it is, but I engage in writing. And most of my morning I spend on writing. And then I usually do my exercise, followed by half an hour, about 30 minutes of yoga.
Yeah.
Also, a very important part of my morning is my smoothie. I make myself and my kids smoothies every day, and then I spend a lot of time with my families in the afternoon. Generally, I have one day when I'm online. These are Thursdays. Today's a Thursday. And most of the other days, I try to just continue with the basically writing in the morning, family, friends, afternoon or evening.
How important is all to have routine, right? I teach meditation. I am a yoga instructor, and I have that routine also. And it's how important it is to start your day. You
Yes,
know, I I think that meditation should be teach now at school since very little. It's
I
so
could not agree more. I could not agree more. And again, it's so easy to teach, and kids connect to it
yes.
so easily and so naturally. And again, in the past, when we used to spend our evenings around the fire with the community, you didn't really need meditation because you could be sitting around the fireplace, looking at the fire or looking at the stars for, an hour or two, and that was meditation. Today, when we're running around so much, I think it's important to introduce it, and yes, in schools.
Yeah. It should be like that. And what has been the greatest challenge you've faced in teaching or promoting happiness studies?
Um, so I don't know if there is one greatest challenge, but there are a few challenges, some, personal, internal, and others external. So one challenge, I referred to earlier when I talked about my difficulty with public speaking. So I give, a lot of lectures. I speak a lot. When I travel, it's not just on Thursdays.
Yeah.
I teach during the week, and being in front of an audience for a long time, takes a lot out of me. Now, when I say that, I don't say it from a place of regret or feeling the need to change that. Teaching is the most meaningful thing that I do. So I'm going to, hopefully continue doing it for the next, well, until I breathe my last breath. But that is a challenge, and it's real. Another challenge is with the academic world, where there are two barriers. One barrier is the fact that it's very important for me to focus on practical tools and techniques. And sometimes academia frowns, looks down on the very practical, because it needs to be theoretical, it needs to be pure. This idea that Kant introduced into the world, pure reason. I don't like it. No, I think, reason needs to be dirty. It needs to be dirtied with experience. Because reasoning without experience, reflection without action, doesn't lead to growth. We need both. And second, also in academia, there isn't the tendency for interdisciplinary studies. So why was it so hard for me to introduce happiness studies into universities? Because they would ask me, but does it fit into psychology? Oh, we have positive psychology. Or yeah, come in and introduce positive psychology. Wait, is it philosophy? Yeah, bring it in and let's talk about. But the answer is yes, yes, and many more yeses. It's philosophy and psychology, and it's economics, and it's neuroscience, and it's literature, and it's movies, and it's theology. And in academia, there is a reluctance when it comes to interdisciplinary studies, and happiness studies is interdisciplinary.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to tell you my story. When I was starting to, I was looking to study about happiness, and I was looking also to a different certificate. And I asked one person, and I said, listen, I have these two options, bio, neuro, emotion, and I have happiness study. I don't know which one. I love the happiness study curriculum. And the person looked at me and said, happiness study? What is that? And I said, okay, that's the one I'm choosing. That's the one I'm choosing. Because he was like, what is that? Are you going to say, hi, I am a happiness study instructor? What is that? And I was like, okay, that's the one I'm going to choose.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I'm very, very glad I did also. If you could share one key message about happiness on a global level, what will it be?
Yeah, let's get serious about happiness. Happiness is not just some feel-good, self-help, new age field. Happiness is a serious business. It's not for nothing that maybe the greatest philosophers in history, all the way from Aristotle and Lao Tzu to, Helen Keller and Martha Nussbaum. No coincidence that these philosophers seriously engaged with the good life, or happiness, or eudaimonia, or flourishing. Because it's important, because, I'm not sure why we're here on Earth. It's above my pay grade to, truly and deeply understand that. But I do know that by our very nature, we are inclined to pursue happiness, to seek the good life. And therefore, it's an important pursuit. Just as it is important to understand what food we ought to eat. what nourishes us and helps us grow and become healthy versus what hurts us and what is poisonous. It's important with food. It's also important with ideas.
I have my last question, and I can have you here 2 hours, but I know you're very busy, and this is my last question. What personal or professional dreams would you like to achieve in the coming years?
So when it comes to professional dreams, it's quite easy and straightforward for me. So I want to launch the PhD, which we're hopefully doing in September of 2025. I then want to launch a BA, a first degree in happiness studies, which I can see happening in September of 2026 or 2027. Within the Happiness Studies Academy, I want to also offer coaching certificate and yoga teacher training, and to help grow the community in a healthy way. Because, there are many companies, I'm not talking about HSA now, but there are many companies that when they grow and they grow fast, they lose their DNA. They lose their magic. And right now, and for anyone who's been to a retreat or anyone who, visits the webinars on Thursdays, there is some magic that's happening, intimacy and psychological safety and incredible support for one another. I want this to remain, for us to feel like we're a family, and at the same time, and this is challenging, and at the same time to expand and to grow and to bring about the happiness revolution. So that's professionally. On a personal level, I want to cultivate more patience. I'm very impatient, and it's both a strength and a weakness. It's a strength because, I have an idea and I run with it and I get things done. It's also a weakness because sometimes we need to wait and let things take their natural course. Nature has patience. You don't make a seed grow. You let it grow. It takes time. It struggles, to push itself out of the ground, and then it flourishes. But it takes time. It takes a long time for a tree to grow and flourish. And I want to learn more from those trees and cultivate more patience in my life.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tal. It's been a great honor, a pleasure to have you in the Entre Nos. And I know that I'm speaking for everybody who is going to watch this interview. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for doing this. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.